Alright, this video is for creating a 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter border in AutoCAD for the sticker project. So let's get started. We're going to be using AutoCAD 2019. Now you're going to notice on your screen there's quite a few different types of AutoCAD. There's mechanical, there's drafting. You want to make sure you're using just AutoCAD 2019. It's labeled English there. So you have to find that on your desktop, or you can go down to the Start menu, type AutoCAD 2019 English, and grab that one right there. Now I already have a screen open, so I'll just open that up. And when you first open it, this is what you're going to see. First thing we're going to do, pretty straightforward, we're going to click on Start Drawing, and we're going to set up a few settings before we really get into actually drawing anything. So up here you'll notice I have File, Edit, View, Insert Format. You're not going to have that. Yours is going to look like this. Should look like this. If it doesn't, you should come talk to me, but it should look like this. You can click the little eject button. Looks like an eject button. Go down. We're going to click Show Menu Bar, and that's going to bring up that File, Edit, View, Insert Format bar. We're going to have to set up the units. We have options. We can set it in inches or we can set it in millimeters. Our project we're doing in a 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter square. So we want to set it up in millimeters and then make a 100 by 100 millimeter square. So I'll click Formats. I'll go down to Units here. Click on Units. And you just want to make sure that your units are in millimeters. All right, so lots of different options. We're going to be working in millimeters. And then we'll go down and click OK. Fantastic. Second thing we're going to want to do is set the limits. All right, so I've got a little on-screen keyboard I'm going to pop up here so you can see what I'm doing on the keyboard. I'm just going to type. I use the keyboard just to type limits. All right, here we go. Limits. And you'll notice it pops up automatically on your screen. There's no need to click in the command bar. You can just start typing on your keyboard and it'll pop up. So limits, and then I'm gonna go right into this right away. I'm gonna hit spacebar. In AutoCAD, it's all about efficiency, and spacebar is a physically bigger button than the enter key. So the spacebar and the enter key do the exact same thing. So we're gonna get into the habit right away of using the spacebar, not the enter key. So I'll go down here and I'll hit the space bar. And that did the same thing as the menu. Did the same thing as hitting enter. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to read what it says up here, and we're going to follow the directions, and we're going to input some numbers. So it's asking us to reset the model space limits. And first thing we want to do is specify the lower left corner. So lower left corner, this is going to be our drawing space. We want the lower left corner to be at 0, 0. 0 in the X and 0 in the Y. So we're going to set it to 0, and then we need to shift over to the second box, which you can't do with your cursor, because if you move your cursor, it just moves the whole thing. But to jump over to this cursor, to this box here, you have to hit either comma or tab. Either comma or tab will swap over to the next box, and 0, and I'm going to hit, once again, spacebar, not enter. Now it's asking for the upper right corner, right? We're drawing a square that's 100 by 100, and I'm going to make room for 2 of them. So I'm going to make the upper right corner 250, and I'll hit tab, 250. Right, and I'll hit spacebar again. Okay, that's set our actual drawing space. Now to make that pop up, I'm going to go down, I'm going to click Z for zoom, and I'm going to click A for all. And that's going to grab the extents of my drawing space that I just made. Now we have units and limits set. We're going to want to go ahead and we're going to want to set up a couple layers. Right, up at the top here, we've got our ribbon bar, and we got a box for drawing, for modifying, for putting in some dimensions and text. The next one over is layers. And each line or each entity or anything you draw needs to be on a specific layer. And we don't want to draw anything on layer 0. The only time we really use layer 0 is if we're defining or creating a block, which we're not going to be doing in this project. So I don't want anything drawn in white or on layer 0. So none of your lines should be white. So I'll show you here just quickly what I mean. I'll click on line and I'll just draw a line here, and I'll draw a couple lines. Okay, and then I'll hit spacebar to end the command. There we go. And you can see how they're all white. All right, and that's no good. I don't want to see that. So we'll click on layer properties and we'll wait. There it is. And we're going to create 2 layers. We're just going to use one of them for this video, and we're going to use the second one a little later on. So I'm going to create this shiny new stack is the button for new layer. So I'll click that. I'll type in border, right? Because I want this to be my border layer. I'll go over to color. I'll change that to my favorite color, which is magenta. Click OK. And I'll click on line weight, and I'm going to make it just a little thicker. Get out of the way. There we go. A little thicker. Okay. Right on. I'm going to make one more. I'm going to call it the object layer. And everything we draw is going to be on the object layer. Change the color. I want this to stand out. Cyan, cyan. Okay, there we go. And I'm just going to change the, cancel that. Change the line weight. I just want that to be default. Okay. That's all we need for now. When you get into more technical drawing, we use 20 different layers, but that's all we need for right now. So I'll close this window, and I'm going to go back up to layers. Here, right now, this tells us which layer we're on. I'm going to click, this is a drop-down menu. I'm going to go down and click on the border layer. And I'm going to try drawing another line, and you're going to see what happens here. Oh, look at that. Fantastic. Spacebar to end that command. And you can automatically see that it's on a different layer. It's nice and purple. If you've already drawn some stuff and it's on layer 0 and you want to put it on a different layer, you can just click whichever line you want to swap. Click the drop-down menu, click the layer you want it in, right? And then I'll hit escape on the keyboard right here. I'll hit escape, and that'll unselect my line. And we're on the border layer. Now, I don't actually want any of this stuff. We don't need this for our drawing. So I'm going to select all of it, and I'm going to delete it. And to select things can be a little frustrating. Right? If I click and hold down the left mouse key, it makes that lasso. Okay? And it's kind of frustrating to use the lasso tool because it does things like this. So what I would recommend you do is click and release the left mouse button, and then you can drag and make a square. It's much easier, right? If you drag it to the left, to the right, it's blue, and that means only the lines that are completely covered will be highlighted. I'll hit escape. If I click and drag to the left, it's green, and that means that any line I touch will be highlighted. Just a little note. And don't hit backspace. If you hit backspace, I'll show you what happens here. If you hit backspace, it jumps you up into the command. It jumps you up into the command line right here. I'll do that again. Backspace automatically jumps me up into that command line. What you want to do is hit delete. The delete key on your keyboard isn't above enter. It's above the left arrow. So it's kind of over here, the delete button. You're going to hit delete, and that will erase those lines for you. If I undo that, I can also Control A. So Control A will select everything, and then I can hit delete, or up here I can just hit the erase button. Erase button's up here, and that will delete all my lines. So that's a little bit about setting up our drawings, our units, our limits, our layers. Now we have to get in and actually start drawing. All right. So this is our model. It's called model space. This is our actual, where we actually do our drawing and modeling. To navigate the model space, there's a couple things that make it really easy. Click down the roller ball on your mouse. So in between the left and right buttons on your mouse, there's a roller ball. If you click and hold that down, you can see my little hand that pops up. That allows me to pan. That allows me to move the screen around. I don't know why it's, there we go. Very handy. All right. If I release that and I roll that mouse roller ball up, I zoom in. If I roll it down, I zoom out. All right. So I'm going to want sort of this XY. These are my origins. This is 0, 0, bottom left of my limits. I'm going to move that closer to the center of my screen, and that's going to be the bottom left for the border we're going to draw. So we're going to start by drawing a square that's 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters square. All right, so let's get into it. Before we start, we're going to make sure we're on our border layer, not layer 0. So make sure we're on the border layer, which for me is magenta, my favorite. And we're going to start drawing. Now, I mentioned before with the spacebar, drafting is about efficiency and accuracy. So instead of going up here, this is where you go if you're brand new to the program. You click these icons. Instead of going up here and clicking, what we're going to do is we're going to use the keyboard. So we're going to keep our left hand on the keyboard. We're going to keep our right hand pardon me, on the mouse. And that's going to make us look like a pro. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type the shortcut for line, which is L. So the shortcut for any action in AutoCAD, just start typing what you want to do and watch the command bar and it will pop up. So I'm going to type L for line, and automatically a bunch of options come up, and you can actually physically click them if you like, but L will automatically be highlighted for line, and you can just hit spacebar and it default grabs whatever's blue. I can cycle through them with my arrow keys, but easy enough. I'll hit escape to get out. Do this again. Type L, right? And then it's pre-highlighted, spacebar. I'm into the line command, and you can see here it says specify first point. So I just want to follow the directions, specify the first point. So to specify the first point, I have to put in the X and Y coordinates, similar to what we did with limits. So I'm actually physically going to type 0, jump over to that second box, which is comma, right? Or tab. So I'll use comma, 0. And then I can hit spacebar. And you can see it automatically puts the beginning of my line at 0, 0. Now, when you're new to AutoCAD, it's very tempting to click and use the mouse buttons a lot. We're going to use the mouse for aiming our line, but we're not actually going to click the mouse keys. We're going to use spacebar. All right, so what I'm going to do for the rest of my lines is I'm going to give my line a direction with the mouse. So I'll aim the line. Don't click. You're tempted to click, don't do it. So give it a direction, and now type the value or the length you want the line to be. So I want my line to be 100 by 100. Now I can't go down to the keyboard, the virtual keyboard, so I have to use my physical one. But you'll see it pop up there. I'll type 100, spacebar, and now you'll see that my line is got like a little elbow in it right down in here. Okay, that's good. That's what you want. One of two things could possibly go wrong at this point, and I will show them to you. First, if you type 100 and go spacebar, snap it in the horizontal, type 100, hit spacebar, you might end up with something that looks like this, a very, very small line. Don't worry, you're just zoomed out very far. So just hover your cursor over here and roll that roller ball in, and your line should get bigger. Second thing that could possibly go wrong, I'll show you here, is this. Your line could look like this, right? You're like, oh, what's going on? You're zoomed in too far. So simply roll back on that mouse roller ball, and you'll be just fine. Don't worry. So we have the first corner there. Now I need to go lock it in vertical. I'm going to give it a direction, give it a value. Remember not to click your mouse key. All right. If you're up here and you click, right? Oh no, what do I do? Okay, don't worry. Just hold Control and Z, or you can go down here and click undo. So Control Z will undo, or you can actually physically go down to the menu bar and click undo, and it will undo that last point that you accidentally made. Right, so oh no, I made a mistake there. I'll just go, oh, don't worry, undo, and we can start again. If you make a whole bunch and it's really ugly and you're like, oh man, I just don't know how to cope with this, you can go down to your keyboard, hit escape. Okay. Select the lines you want. Remember to click release, drag, click, and then hit the delete key. And we'll start again. L spacebar. I'm just going to grab the end of this. You can see where it kind of selects that endpoint. You want to snap to that endpoint. I'm going to go vertical, give it a direction, give it a value. Value 100, spacebar. Oh no, my line's too high. Not to worry, I'll just zoom out and pan down using that roller ball on my mouse. Snap it to horizontal, give it a value, give it a direction, give it a value, 100, spacebar. Lastly, I can come, we got options now. I can snap it in, give it a direction, type 100, or I can simply click on the end point of my first line. All right, I'm done drawing my line, 100 by 100, so I will hit spacebar to end, and now we're going to go ahead and save our border. All right, so I'll go up here, click Save As. Where you save it is important. If you save it on your desktop, you're going to run into all sorts of issues. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to click on your documents. We're going to make a new, we're going to make a right click, new, wait for that to populate, new folder, call it drafting. And inside the drafting folder, I will call this, this is McDonald's sticker project. I'm just going to call it McDonald. Just call it your name. We're going to end up saving these all on a USB, so I need to know whose file is whose. So just make sure you put your own name in the file and click Save. Okay, so once again, just as a review, we've opened AutoCAD, we've set the units, we've set the limits, we've set the layers, we've drawn a square that's 100 millimeters by 100 millimeters, and it's on the border layer. And then we've gone ahead and saved that in documents, not on desktop. All right. See you later.